I'm William Richardson alongside Mike Sivo. We're going to recap the game from last night, Louisville against UConn. Great game, 81-64 UConn. We got great production from the starters, led by Breanna Stewart, 24 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. What did you think about her gameplay last night?
I think she showed some great consistency while shooting the ball, but what still concerns me about her play is that she's not rebounding off of pure skill. I mentioned it last week in UC Sports. She's rebounding because she's the longest player out there, but she has to rebound by boxing out and using skill as opposed to just talent and the gift of her size. But she scored the ball pretty well. The three-point shot, she's getting more consistent again, but needs some work to get it more consistent in going future and forward games. But she was pretty good.
Definitely. Stewart went 4 for 8 from the three-point line. She looked very, very good. Another three-point shooter, Kaleena Mosqueda-Lewis. She had 13 points and 4 rebounds, but scary moment for her. She injured her left elbow after injuring the right one early in the season. So let's send it to Gino. Let's hear his thoughts about Kaleena Mosqueda's injury.
I don't think it's, from what I've been able to see, it's not as bad as, what happened last time. So we'll know more. Doc's looking at it right now, but it's in a similar spot, just a different elbow. So we got a week off before we play again, and I guess we'll know more in a day or so. And she got to learn how to fall, something. Yeah, we got to put bubbles around our guys. We can't afford to get anybody hurt. We can't afford to get anybody else hurt anyway.
Now, in addition to scoring the ball well on the offensive end, UConn also played very well on defense. They held Louisville stars Shoni Schimmel to a total of 9 points while holding the team to under 37% shooting. So do you like how UConn played defensively last night?
I thought the defense was absolutely relentless. Louisville is a really solid offensive team and can almost compete with UConn on that level in the conference. But as we saw, UConn separated themselves once again, like they have with every other team. They totally shut down the Schimmel sisters. They had nothing, no consistency, no flow on offense, no anything. And Mariah Jefferson was an absolute beast with her hands. She was swatting balls away, fast break point transition. She was incredible. One of the best games I've ever seen her play.
Mariah Jefferson, career high 18 points, also had 5 assists, had a couple of steals, and she was able to affect the ball on the ball and off the ball as well, shutting down Schimmel, doing anything that the team needed her to do in order to get that win. So with Kaleena Mosqueda-Lewis being out potentially for a week or so, Gina said we're going to take the injury day by day, but will that increase the workload for Stewart, or will other players see more minutes?
I think Stewart has a pretty heavy workload already. I think it's more important that other players step up in her potential injury or her absence in future games. I think Jefferson proved to us that she can handle a big scoring load because of her defense. Her defense creates her offense, but her three-point shot is getting a lot better and a lot more consistent. I think they should try and spread out that load so Stewart's not running up and down the court a full sprint all game trying to be the hero on both sides of the ball.
Now, what player on the team right now besides Stewart can take that load off of Jefferson and make Jefferson not one-dimensional, but allow her to focus on one area of the game? Is that Dolson? Is it Hartley?
I think it's Hartley because she's the other guard. People are going to start focusing more now on Jefferson. She's become a main part of UConn's game plan on offense and defense. So I think with as good as Hartley is now, she can be even better because they're going to clamp down more on Jefferson. A very formidable guard force, Hartley and Jefferson. There is not a better guard force in the country when they're both operating on all cylinders.
Definitely. Well, we're going to see how that tandem with Jefferson and Hartley plays out next Sunday on the 16th against 13 and 10 USF. It's a conference game. Should be a very interesting one. Now we're going to switch it to the men's side. The men's team, they played last night in Orlando at UCF, won by a total score of 75-55. Lasan Chroma had the game of his career, 17 points, 7 rebounds, 4 steals. He looked great. So does Chroma have the potential to be that other player besides Boatwright and Shabazz that gives you good production game in and game out?
I'm not sure potential is the right word. I think it's always been there for him. He was one of George Washington's best players when he was there. I think the skill's always been there. It's just more he's become so important to the team, especially on defense. It's more needed from him. They expect that from him now. And after watching his games, I expect it from him every night as well. He has great hands on defense. He's locking people down. Some of the best guards UConn has played. He's been taken out of games. You can trust him with the ball in his hands as well on the offensive side of the floor. He creates. He drives better than anybody else on the team right now. He's a very important player going forward, and I think he has a huge role.
Of course. Now, we also have 4 other players in double digits. Shabazz Napier with 17 points, Boatwright with 11, Phil Nolan with 10. But the player to me that stood out was DeAndre Daniels. all week they were talking about injuries. First it was an ankle, and then he had back spasms. But 16.7 rebounds is a very solid contribution. So what did you think of his gameplay last night?
His shot dart doesn't show it, but he started off 0 for 4, a little quiet. He was just trying to get his feelers back on. He's trying to feel himself out a little bit and get back into his comfort zone. But then he finished the game after that 7 for 17. So he's finding his stride again. He has multiple injuries right now that he's recovering from. Any player would go through a struggle period and show a little rust, as always. But I think it's going to be a very quick recovery for him. He looked pretty solid against an okay, fairly well-sized UCF team. I think with Memphis looming on Saturday, they need a healthy DeAndre Daniels.
And with the AAC, you never really know who's going to beat each other. We saw SMU take out Cincinnati, the team that UConn lost to. They won by 20 points. So you never really know who's going to take each other out.
Exactly.
But UCF, though they might be a fairly average team, UConn did out-rebound them by 11, which was an area that they needed to focus on. They got the job done. So their next game is Wednesday at the XL Center against USF. So what are the keys to victory for the UConn game on Wednesday?
I think it's just not focusing too much on threes. They get a little three happy at some points. I think they shot at 5 for 17 against UCF. Below average for them. They can't rely on it. We're lucky to have such great drives by Chroma and Boatwright and Napier and have some pretty solid inside post scoring from Nolan, especially. He had a very solid game, didn't miss a shot. Don't focus too much on the threes. You have to out-rebound Memphis. They're a pretty good rebounding team. Shaq Goodwin's a pretty solid player. You shut him down the first time at home, but he's going to be hungry to do a lot better in this game. So just stay in your game plan. Don't try anything too hard, and don't force threes.
Now, last question. Obviously, UConn has a lot of good players in their rotation, but who's the one player besides Shabazz, besides DeAndre, that you're looking to get a good, solid production out of?
It's definitely got to be Ryan Boatwright. I think he's been a little quiet on the offensive end recently, but he's making much smarter decisions with the ball. He's become a much better player because he's a better passer, he has better court vision, but he's become a slightly better shooter too. I think he can be a real weapon if he has the ball in his hands enough. If you have Napier and Boatwright clicking at the same time, I don't think there's been any teams that could beat them.
Definitely. Well, that wraps it up here in the studio. Alongside Mike Sivo, I'm William Richardson, and this is UCTV.